Okay, good. And I see that we're recording. And Christine, are we still on Facebook Live?
I mean, it looks like it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I see. Yep, it's up
Current
there.
stuff,
Stuff is up there.
current goodies. Okay, good. So good. Then I think we're up and running. If you're seeing us somewhere, we haven't started yet. We started 8:10. So join us for How I Murdered My Best Friend at 8:10. Theater Rhinoceros. We'll see you in a bit. Yay. Thank you guys. I'm signing off. I'll see you just a little bit before 8.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Hey, Joe.
Hey there.
Hey, just checking in one last time on the sound. Let's
Okay.
do that first. Test, test, test.
Sounds good.
Good, great. And up here, test, test.
I hear you.
Great. And test, test.
I hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining me this evening. And you're here for How I Murdered My Best Friend, and we will begin shortly. Thank you so much for joining us. Yay! Hello. My name is John Fisher, and this is How I Murdered My Best Friend. This is a story of Jeremy, but it's also a story of me. When I'd finished graduate school, I'd been at the university for a decade, for 10 years, and it was glorious. I'd done more than I ever imagined I wanted to achieve. It was incredible. I'd found myself as an intellectual, as an artist, as a writer, as a thinker. It was wonderful, but more than anything, I discovered that I could write and direct plays. It was a wonderful stretch. It was unbelievable. And it was shocking to leave, completely shocking to me, because I've been surrounded by academics, bright, intelligent, ambitious, articulate, educated people. It was so inspiring, 24 hours a day. I mean, I'd seen a lot of nastiness and a lot of insidious behavior at the university. I mean, a lot. I have to admit it. Yes, it was sometimes overwhelming. I mean, the underhanded behavior and academics would lie to your face. I mean, lie to your face. And then when you confront them later, they would lie again, and convincingly, persuasively. When I started doing theater, professional theater outside the university, everybody back at the university said, you are going to get screwed. You're going to get ripped off. They're going to walk over you. They're going to make fun of you. It's going to be awful. And my response to them always was, I never saw anything in the theater that I hadn't seen first at the university. What was different though? What was different was not the acts, but the behavior in the theater, the completely unsavory, uninhibited, unequivocal, unlikable behavior, emotional behavior of people on the outside. It was incredible. It was no more sleazy than the university, not at all. But it was completely and unequivocally childish sometimes, ridiculous, and therefore insulting. I never acted like an academic snob until the first time when somebody stupid actually condescended to me. And then I let him have it. I figured the gloves are off. Here we go. Say what you will. But I made it. I found how to work with people, to negotiate things so those weird moments didn't happen, to navigate all the childishness, in some ways to enjoy it, to embrace it and take it for what it was, an expression of creativity, of adventuresome ambition. That's what it was. I began to see it in perspective, and I was making a living in the theater, and it was so exciting. And then I became a victim of the first dot bomb. In 2002, I was broke. I was completely broke. I had no work. And here's the thing though, I was married to my husband at the time. I still am, the same man. We've been married for 15 years at the time. And you can't be broke in a relationship. In a gay marriage, everybody pulls his weight. It's true of a lot of straight marriages too. It was the kind of marriage where I had to bring home half the bacon. I couldn't say no. I couldn't live off of somebody else. It was not possible. Writer-directors, they don't do so well in a bear market, do they? So I was forced to fall back naturally on the one thing I had left. So I fell back on acting. Now that's gonna sound pretty weird, right? Falling back on acting, but that's all I had. I had nothing left except acting. And so I took the starring role in a new play by Donnie. Now, Donnie was, he was sort of famous. He made a lot of money putting on nudie shows, you know, those shows where everybody was naked all the time. And he often had porn stars in them. So I agreed to star in one of those shows with Donnie. So did you read the script? Yeah, I did. I liked it. I liked it a lot. What'd you like about it? Well, I thought it was very clever. I thought it was very funny and thoughtful and smart. You know, I feel like you have a real affection for these guys and their fetishes, these guys that you interviewed for the play. I was really impressed. I enjoyed the script a lot, Donnie. I once wanted an interview with you. I read it, yeah, in Bay Area Reporter, I think. You said that my plays were cheap, porno plays, that I put porn stars on stage to titillate the audience, to excite them. You said they were totally unbelievable. And you said, what'd you say? You said that they were just, they were for scaredy cats who couldn't bring themselves to go see real porn or go to a real sex club or a back room. So they came to my plays. They're just for scaredy cat gay guys. Wow, you have a good memory. I think I was getting at, what I was getting at in that interview was I felt like you didn't really care about the believability of situations in your play, that you kind of threw it out the window whenever you wanted to, do something silly, excite the audience. I just seen before that interview, I saw a play that you did about prison, about gay guys in jail. It was called Hard Time. Yeah. It starred that porn star, Biggie Big. Yeah, he was in that. Yeah. And near the end of the play, there was like a prison break and everybody decided to break out of the jail. And for some reason, they decided to break out of the jail in the middle of shower time. So they were all naked and they were all greased up. And Biggie Big, the porn star, he jumped off the stage. That's how he broke out of prison. And he ran up to me and he was completely engorged. I mean, he had this like enormous erection. He ran right up to me and he went like this in my face. And I kind of thought, that was kind of breaking the mood. It was breaking the situation when he, in my face. That's what I thought. So did you touch it? Biggie Big, did you touch him? No, actually I didn't. I think I was more terrified than I was aroused. But you see, I felt like the whole dramatic situation had been thrown out the window so that people could jump off the stage and run around the audience naked with boners. And I thought that you were like breaking the fourth wall. I, in fact, thought that you were like molesting the fourth wall, destroying, like it was like ugly what you did to the fourth wall in that one. But this one, I like it so much. I mean, there's no nudity. Nobody gets naked. There are no porn stars. And you seem to be aiming for something higher in this one because you seem to have this real affection, this real interest in these guys and their fetishes, how they like to like pee on each other and rub poo all over each other and, get tied up. I thought there was a real sincere empathy on your part with these people. Okay, so you'll play the guy who drinks pee. I'm joking. You'll play the interviewer. You'll play me. That's the autobiographical part. You'll be me, except skinnier. So that's what I did. I sat in a chair and I interviewed these guys about their fetishes every night, about their fetishes with pee and poo-poo and getting tied up. And it was fascinating. I'd sit there and I'd say, so you're really into piss, huh? I mean, what do you like to do with it? Oh, you like to drink it. Oh, that's interesting. You like to drink it. So how do you like it? Do you like it really cold or ice cold or room temperature? Oh, body temperature. Oh, you like it body temperature. And how actually do you get it body temperature? Oh, you get it from the source directly into your mouth. That's fascinating. Wow, that's like really efficient. And Donnie would yell at the actors every night. He would berate them mercilessly. You're awful. You're awful. You are terrible. You are awful. I can't believe how boring you are. When I have porn stars on stage, which I usually do, they're fascinating because they've got something to show. They do. You got nothing. You're just boring. You're boring. You're completely boring. You have to animate the script. You have to talk like I talk. When I talk, I'm really interesting. People want to listen to me. Nobody wants to listen to you when you talk. No. I'm after I'm falling asleep. I'm like, that's what I'm doing out here. That's what I'm doing out here. And of course, people quit. They started to quit the show. And then one night, a new actor showed up. His name was Jeremy, and he just moved to San Francisco from Arizona. I walked into the rehearsal, and there he was. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm the new gay actor, which is funny because I'm not new to being gay or to acting. No, I came out of the womb and my mother said the first thing I did was go like this with my little hand. And then I did a set. I did a whole set, a comic set. I talked about how great it was to be out of the womb. It was all dry. I'd been wet in there and all cramped up. Now I could stretch out. And the audience was great. I warmed everybody up for the placenta. That was the main act that night. That was the top bill. And when the placenta came out, they just forgot about me. They all loved the placenta. The placenta was the big hit of the evening. And afterwards, the placenta and I were hanging out in the green room. And then we were topped by the third item on the bill, which was all that poo. Nobody told me that women pooped after the placenta. All this came out, and the poo was hot. It was so hot. The audience ate it up. They loved it. They loved it. They loved it. Wow. You're a sprightly one. Yeah, I've been called that. I've been called a gnome, a hobbit, a munchkin, and a sprite. I've never, thank God, been called a troll. Although somebody might have called me a troll when I was drunk in a bar and I just didn't hear them or understand them. Also, I'm very short, so they might have said it kind of over my head. So I thought it was said to something behind me. And, it can be very confusing being a troll. So you're taking over for the guy who drinks piss, right? Yeah, so how are you going to do that? I mean, have you thought about that? Are you going to chug it or sip it through a straw? No, I want to be very refined about it, I think. I want to have a very refined interpretation of the character. I was thinking of, sort of sipping it, like a fine French Chablis, take a whiff, work it around my mouth a little bit, like a tasting. I want to be very delicate about it, I want to have fun with it. I want to make it look like a real connoisseur's position, sipping champagne, but I'm actually sipping piss, but I want to make it feel like champagne. You're funny. You're very funny. Thanks. Usually people say that to me after I tell them that I'm in love with them. Yeah, I say I love you and they say you're funny. You're very funny. Are you in love with me? Not yet, but I'm working on it. So, Donnie, you want me to read this? Okay, I'll read this. This passage. Okay, yes. Oh, okay, yeah, no, I understand. Okay, here I go. Yes, I drink piss. I do. So what? That's hardly infidelity. It's just bad taste. You, on the other hand, you're a slut. I can't believe that we moved here from Utah and all you want to do is be a slut. You came to San Francisco to be a slut? That's redundant. It's disgusting the way you behave. I'm going to start calling you Crisco Frisco. That's what I'm going to call you because you have the most lubricated asshole in the state south of Old Faithful. How was that? That was great. That was great, Jeremy. I love that. That was great. You really connected with that. Yeah, I feel like it was autobiographical, My first boyfriend, we were devoted to each other. We completely loved each other. And we had three ways. The thing was, I didn't know that we were having three ways. Nobody told me. My father, he was so supportive. He once said to me, he said, I like your boyfriend. I like him a lot. I don't think you could have found a better man. I said, maybe not, but I'm certainly going to try. I loved his acting. I loved Jeremy's acting. He was so natural on stage. He was so relaxed. He seemed to belong on stage. A friend of mine came and saw him in one of the shows, and she said he looked like he lived there. Like that was his apartment. Like we just been sneaking into his apartment. We were eavesdropping. He seemed so at ease, so relaxed. I loved him on stage. I just couldn't stop watching him. And the second act, I stopped being an interviewer and I actually joined the action. And he gave up drinking piss, the character did, and we became a couple. It was fun. And one night after rehearsal, after Donnie and the other actors had left, we were packing up our stuff. And Jeremy said to me, he said, do you really buy us as a couple? I mean, really? Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah. You see, I see a couple like us in the street and I think, well, you can tell who's paying for that relationship. Oh, come on. You're adorable. You're charismatic. Thank you. Yeah. Charisma and about $500 would get somebody like me a date with somebody like you. Oh, come on. I wouldn't worry about it. You're making me blush. Forget about it. You want to have a drink? No, thank you. No, not just with me, with the cast. We're going to go out and have drinks. Yeah? You want to come out with us? No. I'm sorry, Jeremy. I mean, drinking's really not my thing. I mean, I like to drink, my husband and I will have a glass of really nice champagne, maybe a whole bottle, and we get silly. It's great, but that's a special occasion. Not tonight. My husband and I used to drink. We still live together, but we don't drink anymore. It just wasn't fun anymore. A lot of stuff isn't fun around my house anymore. I love this cast. I love them. Being in this show, it's been like a lifesaver. Your life needs saving, Jeremy? I'm beginning to think so. And that's when I realized that there was a sadness about Jeremy. His husband, maybe, the situation they had, perhaps his work. I wasn't quite sure what it was, but there was this deep, deep sadness about him. And I liked that cast. I did. I liked them very much. But they were typical, in my view. The drinking, all the drinking. You see, I got this job teaching at this very fancy graduate school in the MFA program back east. It was like wonderful, this program. And it was amazing because the actors were so talented at this school and they worked so hard. I couldn't figure out why they even had to go to graduate school, but they did. And they studied in the mornings, they went to acting classes. In the afternoons, they did student productions. And at night, they did professional productions. And even at midnight, they did cabaret productions in this underground theater. So they were moving from classes to the student productions, to the professional productions, to the cabaret underground productions. All day long, they were moving around. It was amazing. And they were so talented. They were so prepared. They were so ready. And the days always ended in the same place, a bar, the same bar, which is right there in the middle of all those theaters, in the middle of that university. If you wanted to find them at midnight, 1 a.m., when their days finally ended, you went to that bar and there they all were. It wasn't officially part of the curriculum, but they were definitely learning what every actor was learning that I could see, which was to drink. And I felt terrible. I felt like they should be encouraged to go home, to get rest, to be pretty in the morning, to be full of energy. Instead, they go to that bar and they knock themselves out. And the cast of this play, they'd learned that lesson. They'd learned it without even going to graduate school. I like Jeremy. I liked him so much as a friend that I didn't ever want to see him drunk. Well, we finished the play and it was a success. It did really well, but Donnie wasn't satisfied. He was used to big numbers, right? So he never did another play like that. He never did a legitimate play, with no nudity, no porn stars again. He just went back to he had this whole series of plays he did after that. They're amazing. The titles were great. One of them was called My Boyfriend, the Sex Addict. Yeah. Oh, My Gay Boyfriend, the Sex Addict. Yeah. Oh, and he had this whole series of plays that had porn in the title. Stealing porn and taking porn and licking porn and sniffing porn. Oh, and then he had this series of plays. They're about a gay party where these guys were always taking their clothes off. It was like they were playing a strip poker or something, and they all ended up naked by the end. It was called a Porno Party, right? And then he did a Porno Party 2 and more Porno Party 2. Oh, and he wanted to get the lesbian audience. So he did an all-girl porno party, but it wasn't successful. So he quickly changed it to all-boy porno party. And then there was more all-boy porno party 2. And then a new, improved, ultra more boy porno party 2 with fabric softener. It just went on and on. Oh, and there was the whole gay musical thing, and he got a part of that. He did this gay musical. It was called, what was it called? It was called 12 Naked Men Singing and Dancing. It was all these guys upstairs like waving their peepees around. There was a lot of peepees, tons of peepees in these things. And that's where he went. That's where he ran to, Donnie. And it was about a year after that show. And Jeremy called me up. He called me up on the phone. He said, "Hi, it's me. I've written a play and I've raised money to put it on. And I want you to direct it." And I was so flattered. And suddenly the bear market was becoming a bull market. I was getting work. He had an actor who I had a great amount of respect for. His name was Larry. He was great. They had raised money, a lot of money. And the whole project was kept on track. And I realized years later that Larry moved to Los Angeles shortly after that. And he was very good at focusing Jeremy. But anyway, we were doing this play and it was beautifully produced. It had this really great marketing campaign, beautiful set, beautifully cast. It was a great, great play, very moving, very intellectual, very smart. And it was a wonderful experience working on that show. And when it was over, I said to Jeremy, thank you. That was great. That was completely great. A great experience. Hey, would you like to have a drink? No. Hey, how about this? I'll come over to wherever you work and I'll take you out to lunch. My treat. I want to take you out to lunch, okay? I'll come to where you work. And he said yes, and I went to where he works. And he worked in this beautiful architectural and design office. It was gorgeous. It was down by South Park, yeah, right here in San Francisco. Had this big open frame ceiling and an incredibly professional office, all these guys in nice suits. And I walked in and there was Jeremy greeting people. So charming, wearing a tie. He looked great. And he was so charming to everybody. People come in, he always had something fun to say to them. Hey, how are you? Yeah, it's a little wet outside, isn't it? Well, rain's good. It's good to be wet. You should always be wet. Wet means you're ready. It means you're ready for anything. Stay wet. And so we went to lunch, went to this little restaurant in South Park, and it was raining, dribbling down the awning. We sat outside, and Jeremy had a glass of wine, which was fine. He just sipped it. And I had like a crystal geyser. And we did what all actors do over lunch. We talked about how great we are. And then the bull market took off. I mean, I was busy. I couldn't believe how busy I was. Suddenly, I was running a theater company, and I was expected to put on play after play after play. The great thing is I had three theaters to use for these plays. And I was putting on 10 shows a season, and I needed actors because I was constantly producing. It was unbelievable. So what I did was I created a repertory company, and I put all my favorite actors into it, 7 of them. And Jeremy was the first one I asked because I loved watching him on stage. He was so wonderful on stage. And the plays kept coming. We did everything. We did gay comedies. We did gay tragedies. We did gay musicals. Bum, 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 ba-da, bum, bum. We did more gay comedies. We did more gay tragedies. We did more gay musicals. Bum, 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 bum. More gay comedies. More gay tragedies. More musicals. It was like 10 shows a season. They just kept coming and coming and coming. And it was glorious. Some days we'd rehearse in the morning, then we'd do a matinee, and then we'd do a night show. It was great. It just kept coming. And the only downside was I kind of lost track of my collaborators and what was going on with them. And one day we had a rehearsal at 10 a.m. one Saturday, and everybody was there on time except Jeremy. He wasn't there. And at 10:30, he hadn't shown up. And I looked at the cast and I said, where's Jeremy? And they all started rolling their eyes. I was like, well, that's weird. But one of them was looking right at me. And so I said, where's Jeremy? No, tell me, where is he? He's supposed to be here. Tell me. At 10 in the morning on Saturday? And then I lost it. I completely lost it. That was one thing I could not tolerate. It hit right here with me. It hit to my very soul. So I picked up the phone and I called him. Hey, how are you? You're late. Rehearsal started at 10. We have rehearsal at 10. Okay, well, thank you for saying that. That was rude and obnoxious. So, okay, well, here's what I've got to say to you. If you don't get your ass down here right now, you're fired. Okay? Great, when will I see you? Great, I'll expect you then. Bye. He showed up. He wanted to talk to me. I didn't want to do this in front of other people, so I went into an office. And he said to me, you know what the problem is? And I've been pretty much delegated to tell you this. I've been delegated to tell you this because it's a real problem. You rehearse too much. It's too much, the rehearsals for this. It's like you rehearse too much. You're driving everybody crazy. I'm not the only one. I'm like a spokesman. It's completely out of hand. I said, okay, well, that's interesting. Well, okay, this is what I think is going on. I think that you've been having leads in all the other shows. And finally, like in repertory fashion, like the other actors, now I'm asking you to play a small part and you don't want to rehearse. That's what I think's going on. And of course, neither of us was talking about what was really going on, which is that he was drunk, too drunk to come to rehearsal. And also that I'd lost track of everybody, that I hadn't seen this coming, that it came as a complete surprise to me. That's what was wrong. Well, we made it through the run of that show. It never happened again, not in front of me. I never saw it again. I was so bitter, though, about that. You see, that's how I had grown up, being treated like I was stupid, being condescended to, talked down to, treated like I was lazy, like I was a loser, like I was just a dumb kid. And it had nothing to do with me. It never had anything to do with me. I found out later that the adults around me were all drunk. That's the only reason they said those things to me. They were drunk, and I had done nothing wrong except be in their line of sight when it was happening. I felt terrible the whole time. Growing up, it took me so long to build up any sense of self, any self-confidence. And here was an adult friend doing that to me, blowing me off and then lecturing me. I could not forgive that. I could not. One night I made a big mistake, a big one. It was the last night of that show, and the show had gone well. And, we had a cast party. And when the cast party was over, it wasn't that late. And so Jeremy and some of the other actors asked me if I wanted to go to a bar with them. And I was like, yeah, okay, fine. I made it through this experience. Maybe I should just go out and be with my cast for a change. And so I went to a bar, and there I was in the Castro on Saturday nights at 12:30, packed together. Everybody was packed together, and there I was holding my drink. And Jeremy said he wanted to talk to me. So we went over in a corner, and Jeremy was sipping his cocktail, and he said, you're too crazy. You're too crazy. You're too head up. There's too much energy coming off of you. You're too neurotic. You're too frantic. That's not art. That's not art. What you're doing isn't art. It kills art. It completely kills art. That's what it does. You are killing art. You're an art killer. You've got to get control of yourself. And I was like, well, okay, I'm in a bar. This is his territory. So just don't get an argument. Just listen. Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate that. Thank you. No, you don't need to listen to it. You need to do something. You need to take action. You need to change. You're going to destroy yourself, and then you're going to destroy everybody around you, and you're not going to be making art because you're not creative. You're just going to be making shit. You're just going to be making shit. That's all you're going to make. Yeah, you are. Thank you. Thank you for being frank with me. And finally at 2, the bar closed, and we took Jeremy, Mark was another cast member, and we put him into Mark's car, and we we're going to drive him home. And Mark was driving, and I was sitting up front, and Jeremy was sitting in the back seat behind me, and we were driving up Market Street, taking Jeremy home, and then all of a sudden from the back, Jeremy's like, I don't want to go home. I don't want to go home. I don't want to go home. I don't want to go back to my husband. I don't want to see Byron. I don't want to go home. I want to keep drinking. Let's go drink somewhere else. I'm like, Jeremy, it's 2. The bars are closed. We're taking you home. Come on, relax. All right, we go to the end up. Yeah, we'll go to the end up. We'll buy some liquor. We'll drink out back in the patio at the end up. Jeremy, we're not going to the end up. Okay, it's the end of the evening. If you want to get up in the morning, you don't have anything to do tomorrow, you can get drunk all day on Sunday. Come on, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go home. I hate going home. I hate. Jeremy, calm down. It's not, Jesus Christ. Stop. Oh my God. Did you see that? Did you see that? Jeremy had thrown open his door of the car and jumped out of the moving car. We looked back. He rolled down the middle of Market Street. Then he stood up. And he brushed himself off, and then he looked at us and he started running away from us. Laughing. I was like, oh my God. He's like a child, like he got away with something. And I said to Mark, listen, go turn around, go get him. He might be hurt. We should help him. And Mark said, oh, I'm sick of this. I am so sick of this. This has happened before. It's not the first time. Come on, I'm going to take you home. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. What? This has happened before? Yes, he does this shit all the time. I'm so tired of it. He's fine. He's fine. If he's not, he'll figure it out. He just wants to go someplace and drink somewhere. He doesn't want to go home. It's ridiculous. You're kidding. You don't think we should? No, it's not necessary. There's no stopping him when he's like this. Well, I didn't use him in the next few projects. I didn't want to be around it. It seemed to be getting out of control. I tried to understand it. I tried even to listen to it, but I didn't think that it was going to work. It frightened me. And then I missed him. I missed him big time. I missed having him around, being part of the company. I still had all these wonderful actors I was working with, but there was something missing. So I put him in our big summer musical, and he was great. He was hysterical. There was none of that behavior. I don't know if it had changed or he just done something else with it. I heard that he wasn't living with Byron anymore, his husband. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe things are better. And they seemed to be better because he was so funny in this role. He played this gay set designer, and the real costume designer got him this great costume. She put him in this blue denim overalls, you know, like a farmer wears, except they were these bright, shiny denim blue, and it said baby fat on it. That was like a company, baby fat. And he looked adorable in this thing. He was the big queen set designer, right? And it was hysterical. He like walked away with the show. Every time he was on stage, boom, boom, boom. It was like his stand-up. He just nailed it. And we were about halfway through the run. It was going incredibly well. And it was Monday, and we had a show on Wednesday, and I got a call from him. And I answered it. I said, "Hey, Jeremy, how's it going? Listen, I just got out of the hospital. I've been diagnosed with bone marrow cancer. Yeah, I've had this horrible pain in my back for months, and it was weird because the only time that I was happy was when I was in that baby fat overalls, and they were so tight. They were kind of holding me together. It was like weird. That was the only time I felt comfortable. But on Sunday after the show, I went to the emergency room, and they've diagnosed me with bone marrow cancer, and I'm going to have treatment and surgery. And I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to drop out of the show. And I said, "Oh my God, Jeremy, that's terrible. I mean, take care of yourself." And I asked him where he was now. He said, I'm back in my apartment." Back in his apartment? Why was he back in his apartment? So I got on my bike and I bought some flowers, and I rode up to his new apartment. He was living with a new roommate, and I dropped off flowers for him and a nice card. And then I found another actor to go in, and the other actor got ready. He was ready to go on stage on Wednesday night. He was great. So it was all solved. But I was like, why was he in his apartment? And then I heard that he didn't have insurance. Jeremy had no insurance. He'd gone to the San Francisco General Emergency Room, and now he was facing chemotherapy, surgery, cancer, major cancer treatment without insurance. And he was terrified that he'd have to go through all this at San Francisco General without any money. And it was so weird because this kind of miracle happened. His roommate, the guy he lived with, actually said to him, "Now look, I'm going to get you a job. I'm going to get you a job. And then I'm going to get you insurance. So listen, you're going to come to my company tomorrow, and we're going to put you in a suit and tie. You're going to come in, we're going to interview you, and then we're going to hire you. And then you're going to come in on Monday morning and work the full day. You just have to work a full day, and we'll sign you up for insurance on the company. And then on Tuesday, we will take you to the emergency room and check you in, and you will be in the hospital with full insurance. We'll get you into the best hospital in the city, okay?" I couldn't even believe it. They pulled this off. He went in for an interview. I don't know how he made it through it. And then they put him into a suit, and somehow he made it a full day of work at this company, sitting behind a desk, learning how to be a clerk in this company. A job he would never do except for this one day, but he acted the whole day, and they got him signed up for insurance. And on Tuesday morning, they took him to the emergency room, and he was checked in to California Pacific Medical Center, which was the best place for cancer treatment. I knew it because my husband, my loving husband, had been through cancer himself, and they'd fixed him up in the same hospital. It was amazing. Suddenly he was getting the best cancer treatment in the city. That summer, my father died. It was sudden. I had no idea. I never saw this coming. And I was headed over to Marin for a memorial service, and I stopped at the hospital to see Jeremy. I went up to the floor. It was the same floor my husband had been on. I think it was the same room. And I walked in, and there was Jeremy, still charismatic as ever, laying in bed, hooked up to a lot of tubes. I walked up to him, and I took his hand, and we held on tight. We just cried. There was nothing else to do but cry and to be with each other. And it was a miracle. It was like a miracle. It was the worst thing that could happen to anybody short of death. And yet for Jeremy, it was like a renaissance. He was given 6 months, but he lasted much longer than those 6 months. He was given all the treatments, all the surgery, and he had a place to live. These two friendly gay guys who he knew, who lived out by McLaren Park, they took him in. For 2 years, he lived with these guys in a spare room, free of rent. It was amazing. And the whole community arose to help him. This huge theatrical community arose to help Jeremy. He had health coverage from his roommate. He had a place to live with these nice gay guys out by McLaren Park. And I put on benefits for him at the theater, benefit after benefit. There was a benefit production for him. It raised thousands of dollars. Then we did a fundraiser. That raised even more. We did a second benefit production of the same show. It raised more money. A third benefit production of the same show. It raised thousands more. It was incredible. And when he was up to it, and I couldn't even believe he did this, he told me he had written a solo show. He could barely walk. He was hunched over. He'd lost a foot, but he came down to the theater, and for 2 weeks, he performed a solo show about his cancer, about his illness. It was amazing, and it raised even more money. He was so charming, so charismatic, so adorable. And I have to think, because of the joy coming off of him, the pure joy, that it was like everything he'd ever wanted had in this perverse way happened. He was out of the marriage he didn't want to be in. He had no work to distract him or annoy him away from his creativity. All he had was free time to create, and everybody was supporting him. And he was just creating. He was writing poetry, writing plays, writing solo shows. It was an amazing deliverance. Cancer of all things. I'd never seen something like this happen. The drinking continued, but he was no longer running from anything. He wasn't running from work and from feeling like he couldn't create. He was no longer running. I saw him at bars, at parties. Always, these were fundraisers, always to raise money, to keep him going. And he'd be standing there, relaxed, with a drink in his hand, happy, not argumentative, not lecturing me, not getting into a fight with me. He just seemed happy. He seemed 100% centered and happy. But was he? Was he really? Suddenly, he had to move out of the home he was living in with those two gay guys. I don't know why, but suddenly he had to get out. So now he was living in a new house with somebody who took him in. They had a free room and they took him in, but he would have to go back to work. That was the grim reality. He'd have to go back to work because the money was no longer coming in. He wasn't getting any more money in. And I thought, he must be recovering. He must be at least stable. He's lasted 2 years. That's a year and a half longer than the 6 months predicted. He must be able to go back to work. And then I sort of lost track of things because the economy collapsed. It suddenly, boom, it was another bear market. It was a disaster. And we were now putting on benefits to save the theater. It was incredible. And we needed a headliner. So we rented this huge hall, a beautiful hall right in the middle of the Castro. It was gorgeous. And we needed a headliner. And a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend knew Carol Channing. And there I was suddenly on the phone with Dolly herself, Carol Channing. John, I am so excited. Yes, of course I want to help out. I will do a benefit. I'll be there. I'm 87, but I'm ready. Oh, John, I am so ready to support Aardvark Theater. Yes, you guys, you're wonderful. What do you want me to sing? What do you want Carol to sing? Oh, I can sing that song. Oh, yes. John. Wave your little hand and whisper, so long, dearie. Dearie should have said so long ago. I am so excited, John. I am. The Hippo Theater is going to do so well when I'm there. And I was like, this is heaven. This is great. And people started buying tickets. They were gobbling them up. So many people said they were going to buy tickets. So many people did buy tickets. Everybody, it was like the hottest ticket in town. It was great. And it was going to save the theater. I was convinced. And then she called me back 2 weeks before the benefit. John, I'm in bed. I fell down. I broke my hip. Oh, John, my hip's broken. It's broken. Carol, I mean, I hope you're okay. Are you taking care of yourself? Oh, yes. John. And don't worry, I'll be at that benefit. I have danced with a broken hip before. I have this friend, and he holds me up so that I can keep doing my kicks. It works out wonderfully. People love the broken hip. They love it. I thought, okay, well, fine. She'll dance with a broken hip. It's great. People kept buying tickets. We were going to save the theater. We were going to save it. It was going to work. And then her husband called me. He was also her manager. He said Carol couldn't do it. He couldn't let his girl do it. I said, that's fine. I understand. And I went into overdrive. We needed a headliner. We needed somebody famous. So I got my friend who I'd known forever, and he had become a gay TV star. Everybody knew him from TV. And I said, come up, we'll put you on Carol's plane. We'll put you in Carol's suite at the Fairmont. Carol's car will drive you around. It's all paid for. Come up and save the show. So he was going to come up. And then I got every single Carol Channing impersonator in San Francisco to come to the event. I was going to put on like a tsunami of Carol Channings. It was going to be like a Carol Con. That's what I was going to give the audience, just tons of Carols. And Carol herself would phone in, hi, it's me. And she would sing, wave your little hand. And she would judge the Carol Channing a contest, you know, just by listening to it on the phone. And I got a stand-up comedian, and I was like, I was going to save the event. I was going to save the event. Somehow I was going to save the event. And a board member, as we're planning all this, said to me, he said, John, could Jeremy perhaps perform, you know, like a set, like do a comedy set? And I thought, sure, of course. Yeah, he's kind of desperate to perform. He hasn't been performing lately. He's been very lonely and isolated. And I said, I had no idea. Yes, of course, of course. I mean, we've got like a lot of acts. The evening is really, really long. Yeah, but could he just do something? Yes, of course. Yes, he can do something. But we had so many acts. So I said 5 minutes. Tell him 5 minutes and be firm, because I can't have this go on and on and on. We've got to make money. If people get bored, they won't donate on top of buying a ticket. So Jeremy would perform at our benefit. That night, nobody came. It was a mess. Everybody who bought a ticket demanded a refund. The people who said they were going to buy tickets suddenly lost interest. Suddenly we had to give everybody their money back. If Carol Channing wasn't going to be there, nobody was going to come. Nobody was interested in supporting the theater. They just wanted to see Carol. Well, okay, that's why we got a headliner, and she was not coming. Broken hip. She was at home. She might be on the phone, but that wasn't enough. So nobody came. We had this beautiful hall rented, so we went ahead with it. It was just me, the performers, the board members, a few loyal subscribers, and a bunch of comps. We performed for each other that night. And you know what I should have done? I should have just taken it easy. I should have just leaned on the bar and had a Crystal Geyser or just a beer or, 5 martinis. I should just relax and let everybody entertain each other, because the evening was a bust. And in 2 weeks, I probably wouldn't have a job because there wouldn't be any money. But I didn't. I was so manic. I wanted all of us to prove to each other that we could do it. We could do it, even if it was just for us. So I was hustling around saying, okay, Carol's go on. Carol's go on. Carol's go on. Okay, you go on. And we had a Carol Channing impersonator from New York. I'm like, okay, New York Carol Channing, go on. And okay, TV celebrity, go on. Keep it moving, keep it moving. I was like running around frantic all night. And everybody else was like, the party ended before it started. So they're just like knocking them back. They're having a good time. But my energy was definitely like, And I went up to Jeremy and I gave him a hug. I said, you look 100%. And then I said, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. And he nodded his head. And he was more stooped and more frail looking than I'd ever seen him. And he walked up on the stage. He held his cane in 2 hands. And he started his set. And it was so charming. It was like he lost everything. The cancer disappeared. The stoop disappeared. The cane disappeared. And he was just charming old Jeremy on stage. I loved it. And he got to the 5-minute mark and he said, I have to stop or John will kill me. He could have gone all night. We would have loved it. The audience was eating him up, but he stopped at 5 minutes. He got a huge round of applause and he came off the stage. And afterwards, I decided I should spend some time with my people. So we all went to a bar, Jeremy and the board and a bunch of the supporters, a bunch of the performers, the Carol from New York. We went to a bar in the Castro. There I was again. This one was totally different though. It was weird. This was the weirdest bar. They'd been doing something there before we got there. So they pushed all of the chairs and tables up against the walls. And there were gay men like leaning against the wall, smoking inside the bar and drinking drinks. It was just strange. And the whole center of the bar was open, this big wood floor, and it was filthy. And the place stank of stale beer. It was disgusting. There was one bartender behind this massive bar in a filthy tank top, mixing drinks. I thought, oh, what the hell? So I got a drink and I thanked my friend from TV and I thanked the Carols and I thanked the board, good work. And I acted like all was fine, but it wasn't. I was gonna be unemployed, I was convinced. And then I went over and I talked to Jeremy. How you doing? How's it going? Oh, it's all right. I've been thinking of maybe like going away somewhere. Yeah, that's what I've been thinking. You see, I fucked up my housing situation again. I have to get out of my current housing situation. Free housing, I fucked it up. And I'm gonna have to undergo more chemo, probably more surgery. Yeah. And then I'm gonna have to go back to work. My friends keep telling me that I should maybe go home to Arizona, live with my parents, but chemo in Arizona, that sounds like a comedy routine right there. The redundancy of the whole idea. You know, to comfort myself, I've been reading my favorite California writer, Joan Didion. She tells my story in one of her books. She talks about how Californians come here. They come to the end of the rainbow. We climb up our side of the rainbow and then we slide down to find the pot of gold in California, in San Francisco. And if there's no pot, we've got no place else to go. We've come to the end of the continent. There's no place to go. There's nowhere else to seek a pot. And I thought about it. And I think that's why people jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. I don't think they're trying to commit suicide. I think they're trying to swim to the next continent. They're incontinent, so they need a new continent. They're going to find another rainbow. She also wrote about how desperate we are as Californians. She talked about how the Donner Party were so desperate to get here that they ate their own. That's how desperate we are. And that's how we can be so disappointed when it doesn't work out. Because we've eaten our own. So I've been thinking maybe I'll just go away somewhere. I can't go back to Arizona. There's no rainbow there for me. So I've been trying to figure out where that's somewhere I've been thinking about. I've been trying to figure out where it is. I gave him a big hug. And he hung on to me. I remember he was still holding his cane. I remember it pushing into my back. That feeling of the last hug of Jeremy. And I decided whatever was going to happen with the theater, I was lucky. I went home healthy to my wonderful husband. I climbed into bed and I tried not to think about tomorrow. And at 8 a.m., Larry, that great actor who had produced the play with Jeremy years ago, who always kept him on track, who had moved to LA, he called me at 8 a.m. I picked up the phone. Hi. Jeremy had gone home after that bar. Right after I left him, he'd had a lot more to drink. And then he swallowed a handful of pills. He killed himself. He was dead. And I had never, that was the only time in my life I ever just like collapsed into a chair. I thought that was such a cliche, like something that happened on stage, so theatrical. But at some point you just can't stand anymore. I was overwhelmed. We all were. But a weird thing happens when somebody dies, because after the initial shock, everybody goes into overdrive, right? All the planning, all the things that go into giving fair tribute to people. And I said, well, you can use the theater for memorial. There should be a memorial. And so then people started organizing the memorial. And then I thought, well, there should be a press release. I mean, the papers should be told, and there should be an obituary. So I wrote an obituary and a press release. And I started asking people if they had input. And then people started calling me up. I couldn't even believe this. And they were like so rude to me. They said, you don't know what you're doing. And how could you put that in there, not put this in there? And I said, write me, tell me what it is. I said, I'll tell you over the phone. And like nobody was writing anything. They were just like spouting things over the phone to me like I was their secretary. And I was like, what is all this anger directed at me? So I just kept my nose to the ground, and the memorial, the date kept changing, kept switching around. I thought Larry and I had come up with a date, but then other people wanted to switch it, and it kept changing, and everybody was getting frustrated at me. And finally I said, look, here's the date that Larry and I have decided for the memorial. That's going to be the date. It's set. It can't be anytime. We have shows to do. This is a good date. People will come to this date. And then I just sent in the press release, and I sent in the op-ed, because if I edited it any longer, it wouldn't be current. And I sent it in, and the op-ed came out, and everybody loved it. Once it was done, they thought it was great. The press release went to the paper. They wrote this beautiful article about him. But I decided that there was too much going on, that people were like misdirecting their frustration. I don't know what it was, but I didn't want to be at the memorial. I didn't want to be responsible for the memorial. I didn't want to be blamed if somebody was unhappy. I didn't go. I decided to celebrate Jeremy by spending the day with my husband, by spending the day with somebody I loved. I loved Jeremy, so I would spend the day in love. A few years later, I was in New York City, in Times Square, and I ran into Donnie. There he was in the middle of Times Square. So what show are you going to go see? You're here to see a Broadway show, right? What show are you going to see? Oh, that one's horrible. It sucks. Bad choice. So listen, Donnie, this whole Jeremy thing, that totally took me by surprise. Did you see that coming? Him committing suicide? It completely blew my mind. Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, he was miserable. Yeah, that's why I cast him in the play. I saw that the moment I met him years ago. He was totally miserable. Yeah, but that's why I put him in the play, because he had emotional availability. The audience loves that. They love it if they sense that somebody's miserable and they're acting through it, right? They're being positive through it. I know that because I'm miserable. Yeah, I am. But I deal with it. I eat. I just eat. Yeah, nobody ever fucked up their life by eating. It's impossible. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, but I eat. I can't fuck up my life that way. Well, I might pop one day, but listen, do you want to be in my next show? Yeah, it's all about John Wayne Gacy. You know about him? Yeah, it's a sympathetic portrayal. Jeremy was my friend. And I didn't murder him. But I wasn't always there. He pressed my buttons, but he also charmed me. And I've never seen anybody on stage who could be so much like himself. And when I say murdered, I mean, maybe I just didn't listen enough. Maybe there should have been more evenings out or phone calls or something. Maybe more engagement, maybe more concern. And I'll never forget the night when maybe he needed me the most. And the first half of the night, I was completely neurotic and telling him it had to be 5 minutes. The second part of the night, he basically told me what was going on with him. And I didn't hear it. I knew he was in distress. And I gave him a hug. Maybe he just needed to be driven home. Maybe he needed to be allowed to jump out of the car. Maybe he just needed me one night to chase him around the city, trying to get him to go home. Maybe that'd been enough. But I did feel that morning when I got the phone call that in some little way, I was responsible. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm John Fisher. This has been How I Murdered My Best Friend. We have a bunch of programs coming up at Theater Rhinoceros. Next week, we have a reading. Our free reading series continues on Tuesday. I hope you can join us for that. It's a very exciting play about the LBJ administration. And then on Friday of next week, on the 11th, we have the first performance of our world premiere commission by J. Julian Christopher, directed by Richard Mosqueda, of Alligator Mouth Tadpole Ass. And that's going to be, I think, a wonderful production. It's really exciting. It's an incisive new play by a Latinx playwright from New York City. And we're really excited to be giving it its world premiere right here on Zoom. So you want to get your tickets for that. And then I'll be back next Thursday with a play called Cologne, or Kühn, if you're German, about what it was like for a young gay man who was also Jewish to be in Cologne during World War II, during the Holocaust. I hope you can join me for that. That'll be next Thursday, another free solo presentation. Thank you so much for your support. You've been a terrific audience. It was wonderful performing for you tonight. If you'd like to make a donation to our theater to support all this free programming, as you can imagine, we can use your support during COVID-19. These are tough times. You can send a check to me, John Fisher, Theater Rhinoceros, at my COVID-19 address, 91 Central Avenue, number 102, San Francisco, California, 94117. Or you can go online to therhino.org. That's THERHINO.org, and you can make a donation there. But more than anything, thank you so much for your support. You were a terrific audience. I'm just checking one thing. And we hope that you can continue coming to our performances, supporting our theater. Attendance is the greatest thing ever, right? Buying a ticket is also great. Sending us a donation is wonderful. But I really do think of you as all supporting us in the best way possible just by being here. Thank you so much. Good night.